They say family will never turn their back on you, but blood sometimes stains deeper than betrayal. I'm Blake, born in 1948 in Macon, Georgia. Back in 2023, just months after burying my husband of 47 years, I was left stranded at a Florida airport by my own son and his wife. I felt humiliated, heartbroken, and foolish. But then something happened that changed everything. Today, at 77 and living in Willow Grove community, I'm finally sharing this because no one deserves to feel abandoned by the people they raised. If you're listening, drop your city below and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. The day my husband, Charles, passed, a part of me stopped breathing too. He was my compass, my constant, and the kind of man who made you feel like you belonged in the world, no matter how loud or fast it got. After the funeral, our son, Grant, and his wife Tanya insisted I come live with them in Tampa. "It's time to rest, Mama," Grant said. Tanya just smiled, that practiced smile she'd worn since the day they married. I should have known better. First, I thought it was love. Tanya made vegan casseroles, Grant carried my bags upstairs, and they even cleared a room for me. Tanya's old art studio turned into a guest room. Not a real bedroom, mind you, just a futon, a lamp, and a curtain instead of a door. But I was grieving and grateful. They said they wanted to help me heal. Then one night, Tanya handed me a pamphlet for a healing getaway in Miami. "Just you, me, and Grant," she said. "A few days to unwind. Salt water and sunshine." I remember holding that brochure with trembling hands. Felt like hope. I smiled, actually smiled for the first time in months. What they didn't know is that the trip cost made my heart sink. I didn't want to burden them, so I quietly went to my old jewelry box and pulled out the only thing I had left of value, my pearl necklace. It had been a gift from Charles on our 30th anniversary. I sold it to a collector in the next town over for $1,800. I didn't tell anyone. I just wanted to feel included, like I mattered. The morning of the flight, Tanya was unusually cheerful. She insisted we take separate rides to the airport. "You go first, Blake," she chirped. "Grant's still finishing up some work stuff. We'll catch up." I kissed them both, even packed the lunch Tanya made me. Everything felt safe. But when I landed at Miami International, everything changed. My connecting ticket back home didn't exist. My luggage wasn't on board. I checked my phone and saw a single message from Grant. "We think it's best you figure things out on your own now. Please don't contact us. Take care." No call.
No explanation.
Just that. I stood in that terminal, clutching my purse and a half-eaten sandwich, while people bustled past me, too busy to notice the 77-year-old woman silently crumbling inside. I felt a heat rise in my chest, not from embarrassment but betrayal. It wasn't just that they'd tricked me. It was that they didn't think I was worth an honest goodbye. I sat down near baggage claim and cried like a child. Memories I'd buried began bubbling up of my own mother leaving me with relatives when I was just 6, saying she'd come back after her honeymoon, but never returning. The abandonment then, and now. The cycle repeating. I had $24 in cash, no luggage, and no way home. But I wasn't the same girl I was at 6. I wiped my tears, opened my wallet, and found a business card tucked behind an old grocery receipt. Marcus R. Delaney, ESQ, Elder Law and Estate Planning. He was Charles's friend. We'd met once at a barbecue 10 years ago. He'd told me, "If you ever need to get your affairs in order, give me a ring." I called him from the airport payphone. "Marcus, it's Blake. Charles's widow. I need to change my will." That night, I used Marcus's referral to book the cheapest nearby motel. I barely slept, too numb to cry. But in that silence, I made decisions. I wasn't going to beg for love. I wasn't going to call again or plead for explanations. I was done clinging to people who saw me as baggage. Over the next week, Marcus helped me revise everything: my will, my emergency contacts, my estate plans. I had no millions, but I had enough to live and leave something meaningful behind. I told him I wanted to donate it all to Elder Haven, an organization that helps seniors abandoned or mistreated by their families. Especially women like me, I added. He just nodded and said, "Charles would be proud." I used part of my savings to move into Willow Grove, an independent living community, just outside Jacksonville. It wasn't glamorous, but it was warm. There was a garden, a book club, and every Thursday they hosted music night. The first time I sat under the string lights watching Miss Phyllis play her old banjo, I felt alive again. I told the residents my story, not all at once, but in pieces. They shared their stories too. We were a tapestry of forgotten mothers, overlooked fathers, retired teachers, nurses, mailmen, all of us survivors. We didn't just live at Willow Grove, we lived. I joined the poetry circle, taught sewing to younger residents, even learned to dance again with a man named Howard who wore suspenders and smelled like cinnamon. I still had no word from Grant. Until 6 months later, I received a certified letter from Marcus confirming that Grant and Tanya had been informed of the updated will. I'd expected silence. Instead, I got a call. "Mom." Grant's voice cracked like a child who just broken something important. "Yes. We didn't mean to leave things like that." Tanya thought. "You can stop there," I said gently. "Well, I just thought maybe you'd consider letting us keep the garden." Tanya's really upset. The garden. That same garden Tanya called her sacred space. The one I wasn't allowed to enter without knocking. The one where they'd host brunches I was never invited to. The one that made me feel like a guest in the house I helped them build.
No, irraplia, steadi.
The garden is being donated. Elder Haven is starting a horticulture therapy program. They'll make better use of it. He sighed. "You're really cutting us out completely? You already did that." "I'm just catching up." I hung up before he could say more. And I didn't cry. These days I sit in Willow Grove's garden, now named Pearl's Place, after my necklace and what it once represented. Every flower that blooms there is a piece of the life I chose to reclaim. I've made new memories, real ones. I even adopted a gray tabby cat named Button who sleeps by my feet every night. Some wounds never fully heal, but they remind you what you will no longer accept. I wasn't just a mother. I was a woman who loved deeply and deserved more than silence at the end. To anyone listening who's been left behind, you are not what they discarded. You are what you rebuild. They didn't call again, not Grant, not Tanya. And that was fine with me. It wasn't silence anymore. It was peace. I wasn't sitting by the phone hoping for apologies wrapped in excuses. I had found a life without the crumbs they once threw my way. Willow Grove had become my sanctuary. The morning after I hung up on Grant, I woke up early. The sun spilled through my window like warm honey. I sat with my cup of tea and Button nestled on my lap, watching the garden through the glass. They were planting the first row of wildflowers, lavender, marigolds, and zinnias. Miss Etta, who once ran a flower shop in Atlanta, guided the volunteers. And I just watched, smiling. That was the moment I knew. I had done something bigger than revenge. I'd reclaimed my soul. One afternoon, I was asked to speak at Elder Haven's annual luncheon. I didn't want to at first. I wasn't a speaker, just an old woman with a story too painful to tell aloud. But one of the younger volunteers, Maya, came to my room and said, "Blake, your story is strength. Some of these women still think they're weak." So I wrote it out. Every word. I stood in a room full of donors, caregivers, and survivors and told them exactly what had happened. "My son left me at an airport like lost luggage," I said into the mic. But I wasn't lost. just temporarily misplaced. The room went still, and then the tears came, mine, theirs. I told them how I sold my necklace just to feel like I belonged, how they tricked me into exile. But most importantly, I told them how I found a new family, one I chose. Afterward, people came up to hug me. One woman whispered in my ear, "Your story gave me the courage to leave my daughter's house." Another sent me a postcard weeks later with nothing but the words, "I finally see myself." That's when it hit me. What they meant for humiliation had become a testimony. What they thought would destroy me only rooted me deeper in my truth. A few weeks later, Elder Haven launched a campaign called No One Left Behind, using my story. They asked to feature Pearl's place in the national brochure. My picture, gray hair, laugh lines, and all was on the back page, standing beside a sunflower I'd helped plant. Me, Blake Simmons. A face of hope. Imagine that. Tanya's voice rang in my head sometimes. The way she used to say, "It's not that we don't love you, Blake. We just need space." But space doesn't mean erasure. It doesn't mean betrayal. Love without inclusion isn't love, it's performance. Life at Willow Grove bloomed in ways I never expected. Every Sunday, Howard and I took walks. We called it the memory loop. A gentle path behind the garden where the air always smelled like lemons. He'd talk about his late wife and I'd talk about Charles. We'd laugh. We'd cry. Sometimes we'd say nothing and just walk. One day, Howard asked if I'd like to make it official. I told him, "I've already been married to one good man. But you can keep walking with me until the wheels fall off." He grinned like a schoolboy. One evening, I received an email. It was from Tanya. Subject line, "A request for peace." Message, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but Grant hasn't been the same. He cries at night sometimes. He regrets what we did. If there's any way we could speak just once, I'd appreciate it." I stared at the screen for a long time. I drafted a reply. Then I deleted it. Then I drafted another. Finally, I wrote, "You left me at an airport without my dignity. I found it anyway. I don't need to reopen wounds that have already been treated. But I do hope, sincerely, that one day, you'll understand the cost of pretending love. Take care of yourselves. This door remains respectfully closed." And that was that. I blocked her address. I never wanted to wonder if they'd reach out again. I wasn't bitter, just finished. In January, we hosted a found family gala at Willow Grove. Each resident brought something to represent their journey. Miss Phyllis brought her old Bible. Howard brought a photo of his wedding. Maya brought a drawing of her mother's kitchen. I brought my pearl necklace, not the original, of course, but a small replica I'd found in a thrift store in Jacksonville. I wore it that night. Around my neck, it no longer felt like sacrifice. Felt like armor. As I stood before everyone, I said, "We don't get to choose how others love us, but we do get to choose how we heal. And sometimes, healing means letting go of the ones you gave birth to, so you can give life to yourself again." They clapped. They wept. And under the soft glow of string lights and second chances, we danced. 1 month later, I received news. Elder Haven had purchased 2 more properties, funded in part by my estate and the donations raised by my story. One of those homes was going to be a transition house for seniors escaping abuse. They named it Blake's House. I laughed when I saw the plaque. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like resurrection. You see, I didn't punish my son. I simply removed him from a chapter he never cherished. I rewrote the story, gave it to people who would value every page. So to every mother listening who's been silenced or shoved aside, stand up. Reclaim your voice. Find your Willow Grove, your Elder Haven, your Howard, your Button. Replant your garden. Wear your pearls again. Don't die waiting to be loved. Life proving you are. And remember, The family you build is sometimes braver than the one you're born into. A mother's heart is deep, but it can learn to swim without anchors. Rebuild boldly. Forgive gently. And always, always choose peace. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button. Subscribe to Favy Tales for more real stories. Share this with someone who needs strength today. And drop a comment below. What would you have done in Blake's shoes?